There is a thin line between art and you have a blank there to be politically correct. An artist should be a craftsperson. Your question is, which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Option A, craftsmanship, period, or comma, craftspersonship. Option B, craftsmanship, semicolon, or craftspersonship. Option C, craftsmanship, or comma, craftspersonship. Or option D, craftsmanship dash a craftspersonship. So by looking at the options, we know exactly what are they testing you on, right? So they're testing you on clearly the punctuations, right? So which punctuation would be correct in this context? So how do we solve that? We need to understand what clues are given here. Based on that, what rule to use, whether it should be a comma or a semicolon or a dash, and then do process of elimination. So let's take a look at the sentence question carefully. There is a thin line between art and craftsmanship. So let's forget the second part as of now. So if we take a look at the first part, there is a thin line between art and craftsmanship. That is going to be our first independent clause, right? So as of now, let's keep this on hold, the second part of the sentence. So let's make a note of it. The first part is an independent clause. So there is a thin line between art and craftsmanship, right? Now the next part is just like a phrase that gives you more information on craftsmanship. Okay, the phrase is, or craftspersonship to be politically correct. Okay, so this is clearly a non-essential phrase because it's not adding any value to the context. All it adds is just gives you more information about craftsmanship, right? So let's make a note of it. So we have a non-essential phrase here, or craftspersonship to be politically correct, right? So this is just giving you some information on craftsmanship. And then you have the next independent clauses. An artist should be a craftsperson, right? So now let's see how to connect these two. You have an independent clause, and then after that you have a non-essential phrase. Now how do you connect the independent clause with the non-essential phrase? So there's a rule that states that non-essential phrases can be surrounded with either commas or dashes, right? So either this is the rule here. If you have an independent clause following a non-essential phrase, what you could do, you could either surround that non-essential phrase with the commas. That means it would be independent clause, comma, non-essential phrase, or it could be independent clause dash non-essential phrase, right? Any one of these two would be correct, right? Any one of these two would be correct. So now let's look at the options. Now you're going to see which option is close to what we have. Either if we have an independent clause, comma, non-essential phrase, we'll go with that, or we have an independent clause dash non-essential phrase, we'll go with that. Now what is the difference between using a comma and a dash? A comma tells you that the phrase is non-essential, completely useless. The dash tells you that the phrase is important. The dash tells you that the author wants to emphasize the phrase, right? So when a non-essential phrase has to be emphasized, or when a non-essential phrase has to be spotlighted, then we use the dash. If a non-essential phrase is useless, then we use the comma, right? So either one would be correct. Let's see what is the option, right? Take a look at the option A. So you have option A, period, or craftspersonship to be exact, right? Now the second part of the sentence is actually a non-essential clause, so obviously it cannot come before a period, right? Because it's a non-essential clause, right? So you can't surround that by a period. So option A can be eliminated. Let's go to option B. Option B has a semicolon and you have this non-essential phrase. So obviously B is correct because a semicolon cannot be used to separate it cannot be used to separate a sentence with a fragment on the other side, right? So remember, when you're using a semicolon, it has to be two independent clauses. If there's a fragment on the other side or a non-essential phrase on the other side, you cannot use the semicolon. So therefore option B can be eliminated. Then moving on to option C, craftsmanship or comma, craftspersonship to be politically correct. Now our non-essential phrase is basically craftspersonship. It's not craftspersonship to be politically correct. It's or craftspersonship to be politically correct. Because when you remove this phrase, you're actually getting a complete sentence. Okay. So this comma should not be after or. In fact, it should be before or, because our non-essential phrase begins with or. So therefore C can be eliminated. And then let's go to option D. Now option D uses a dash here, right? Now we have seen earlier that when you want to spotlight a non-essential phrase, a dash is also used, right? So either a comma or a dash should be correct in this case. Now in the options, they won't give you a case where you have a dash and you also have a comma, right? So they won't give you both these answer options because they are correct. Both these would be correct, right? So they won't give you that kind of an option. So they'll clearly give you an option which clearly goes against the rules, and one particular answer goes with the rule, right? So in this case, our answer is option D, craftsmanship dash or craftspersonship to be politically correct.